The Starlink flat high-performance antenna kit is best for boondockers, full-time campers, or really anyone with high-demand RV internet needs. Now, this particular kit included a wedge mount, the Starlink flat high-performance antenna, a router, a power supply, and all the cables and hardware required for a complete install. The installation requirements, well, this moderately complex RV modification will likely require 2 to 3 hours. All right, let's get into tools. Starlink's manual includes considerations for installation on different RV roofs. So for fasteners, you're going to need the machine screws and nuts for surfaces with backside access. You'll need to use lag bolts for wood or plywood, and then you'll want blind hole nuts and machine screws for composite surfaces. So for this tutorial, we're going to choose option number 2 because we're working on an RV with a wood or plywood roof, and as a result, we're going to need these tools. You'll need several drill bits, a 3/4 inch spade bit. You may need an extension depending on your RV roof thickness. You'll also want a socket wrench with a 7/16 inch socket, a 7/16 inch wrench, a pencil, some hex keys. You'll also need a Phillips screwdriver, a drill, caulk gun, self-leveling lap sealant, and rubber roof cleaner with some paper towels or preferably rags. In addition, you may need a box cutter, silicone sealant, and additional supplies to route the cable and tidy up the interior, such as a wall plate, zip ties, and some type of cord protector. Okay, let's get into the install. So first things first, you want to actually take the time to plan out your install. You want to choose a structurally sound horizontal surface away from any roof-mounted RV equipment that could obstruct the antenna's field of view. You'll also need to plan your mounting location so the antenna's low end points toward the front of your trailer or motorhome. Think aerodynamics here. Cleaning the roof surface isn't necessarily mandatory, but it can certainly improve sealant adhesion later in the install, and I do recommend it. Inside, you'll want to consider where the cable will enter and where you'll mount the router and power supply. You'll want to use some towels under the location where you'll drill through the roof to protect furniture or flooring and just help capture any debris that may fall through. Now, before you begin, you'll want to take a picture of the product information label on the back of the antenna. You'll need this information to activate the antenna and set up your service plan. Whatever you do, don't repeat my mistake and have to remove the antenna from the wedge mount to get that info. So now we get to move into step 2, which is securing the wedge mount. So what you'll want to do is use the wedge mount as a guide to mark your mounting location. You'll want to mark all 4 corner hole locations and then set the mount aside. Then you'll want to use your 3 32 inch bit to drill 4 holes at your marked location, of course removing any burrs or roof material debris around the holes. You'll then place a rubber sealing washer around each hole and set the wedge mount on top of the washers aligning the mounting holes. You'll then want to apply a liberal amount of silicone sealant into each mounting hole. One by one, apply silicone sealant to the threads of each lag bolt and insert them into the mounting holes with the washer. Use your drill with the 7/16 inch socket to drive the bolts 90% in. With all 4 lag bolts threaded to 90%, you'll want to transfer the 7/16 inch socket to the socket wrench and then tighten to snug, plus an additional 1/4 turn. You do not want to over tighten the lag bolts. And that brings us to step 3, where we're going to route the cable. So with the included cable pass-through kit and weatherproofing components, routing the cable straight down through the roof is going to be our easiest path. So if you're following this method, here is basically the way to do it. You want to use the drill with a 3/4 inch spade bit and, as mentioned earlier, possibly an extension to drill a clearance hole into your RV. Again, you want to remove any roof debris, wood burrs, or insulation material to ensure the surface around the hole is clear. Then feed your cable from outside through the clearance hole. The cable that comes with the kit is 8 meters, roughly 26 feet long or so you'll have some flexibility for router and power mounting locations inside. But you'll want to thread most of the cable through at this point, leaving about 1.5 feet or so outside. This step will likely require descending your ladder and going inside your RV to ensure the cable is feeding through as intended, of course unless you have someone helping you to install on the inside. Then using soapy water and your drill with the 1/4 inch bit, you want to wet the drill tube and slowly drill a hole through the middle of the rubber plug that comes with the pass-through kit. Then use your box cutter to cut the rubber plug from the cable hole to the outer wall. This will allow you to open the plug and insert the cable. Combine the 2 halves of the plastic base and mount that base onto the rubber gasket, ensuring that the gasket holes are aligned. Next, you want to use the 4 wood screws to screw the base down before wrapping the rubber plug around the cable and pressing the plug into the base. Again, apply lap sealant to the edge of the base and the tops of the screws. Then press the two halves of the outer shell together and place the shell onto the base, and ensure the holes in the inner and outer shells align. One by one, apply silicone sealant to each of the 4 machine screws and hand tighten until they're snug. And now it's time to secure the antenna to the wedge mount. First, you want to find a clean, debris-free surface to place the antenna face down. You then want to apply thread locker to the threads of the 2 shoulder bolts and install them into the threaded holes closest to the cable port, the low end, and use the 1/8" hex key to tighten by hand. Then pick the antenna up, turn it over, and align the shoulder bolts into the keyways on the low end of the wedge mount. Then slide the antenna forward to lock it into place. After that, apply thread locker to the threads of the 2 remaining 1/2" machine screws and insert them into the threaded holes furthest from the cable port, the high end, with washers. Tighten the machine screws with the 3/16" hex key until snug, plus an additional 1/4 turn. Again, do not over tighten these screws. Then you want to plug the cable into the port at the base, the low end of the antenna. Ideally, the cable should not make sharp turns to avoid unnecessary stress that could cause damage. Congratulations, the exterior installation is done, but we still need to mount the router and power source and route the cables inside. The router and power source mounts are easy to install using screws and plastic anchors, but you can also identify the studs in your RV sidewalls for the most secure mount possible. Starlink recommends placing the router in a central location outside any RV cabinetry for the best performance. Now, with this small camper, a central location wasn't an issue, but the only available wall space was on a shared wall with a TV mount. You'll want to mark the hole locations for each mount before drilling and installing using the included screws and anchors, then plug the cables into the router and power source before setting them in their mounts. Complete your interior installation by routing and securing the cables using the additional recommended supplies. Now, just as a note, you have to be connected to shore power, a generator, or a tow vehicle if you have a towable camper to power the router, which is essential for the antenna to show up once you've downloaded the app and created an account. If you haven't already downloaded the Starlink app, do so now. You'll then simply follow the app's instructions to set up your preferred Starlink service plan. Customize your Wi-Fi name, network password, and other settings. The app's obstruction tool is also great for determining signal quality when choosing future campsites. A wall plate is also a nice addition to cover the drill hole just for an aesthetically pleasing finish. Hopefully you're now enjoying Starlink internet service for your RV. For troubleshooting tips and more info on service plans, it's best to contact Starlink directly. However, if you have questions about this install, or if you've done it yourself and have tips to share, we'd love to hear from you in the comments. As always, I'm Ian Baker for Camping World, and until next time, we'll see ya.